get ready to throw down.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Hey, all right.
Let's
get in the swing of it.
We've had some interesting conversations before we turn the mics on, but we're here today to talk about why people buy and where a lot of people get things wrong and where they get kind of off track, right? And it used to be there was a huge gap between people who were selling one way versus people selling the other way. But, you know, it seems like now more and more people are talking about the kind of things that we have all learned and put into practice and stuff like that. And it kind of falls into two camps in my version of this, right? There's features and benefits. And then there is trying to uncover pain.
Value.
Or pain points or concerns or anything else like this, right? You know, and you call it value. So most people, right? And the hard part about features and benefits, right, is you're making a substantial assumption that they see value in the thing that you are pitching and talking about. And the example that I talk about is, you know, you buy the car from the car lot. A year later, they call you back and say, hey, I got this year's model. You can have the same payment, but it's got leather. When do you want to come in?
Features.
Right?
Benefits.
You're assuming I see a ton of value in leather.
You're right.
And I live in Texas. I don't want leather. So let's talk about...
Or you're assuming I have a pain over my previous purchase.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, assume is a great word. This is features and benefits.
Yeah, you didn't ask me if I
totally
was having a problem with the last sale. The last $70,000 I just spent with you, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're talking about big ticket item, go fuck yourself. I just spent 70 last year. What do you want? Another 75 this year?
Mm-hmm.
So I have an issue with that.
All right.
I think what you're, alluding to here is that people sell all these things that we've been trained to sell, right? That I have the greatest product and I do this the best, and they use those big buzzwords of always and only and best, and that is features and benefits to me. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that not everybody needs that.
Or you bought before, you'll buy again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just on auto, like resubscription, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that most salespeople out there today, I see them every day. I work with some of them. They pitch that, right? We are the best. We're the only ones that you should use. And maybe that's not what the customer wants, right? How do you uncover that? What the customer actually wants?
Yeah, right. Because the trick, in my opinion, is you got to have the conversation so that way you can build enough trust and rapport, so that way they feel comfortable actually sharing what is important to them and what they're missing and where the gaps are in their business if you're in a B2B sale and things like that.
Keyword, trust.
I mean,
you have to build the trust.
It's so important.
Or sharing. Sharing's caring.
So...
Are you a bear with a little caring on your tummy?
Al, a couple episodes ago, brought up a really good point of when he went to buy a truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went to buy a truck, a $70,000 truck.
Write a check.
Write a check. Hey, this is it.
Didn't do it.
I'm done. I've made my decision before I walk on the lot. And he got turned away by a very traditional sales pitch of, I have to get through this monologue because that's what I've been trained to do.
You are 100% right.
And the fact is that you didn't need that. You just needed to buy a truck. Mm-hmm. And had one simple question of, why are you here today? Or what are you looking to do to get out of this situation? You'd wrote a check, but you didn't, right?
And he didn't because he didn't get respect from the salesperson.
Yeah.
You have to respect your client, your
prospect. I think that's part of it.
He was addressing his agenda versus mine.
You're exactly right.
Absolutely.
That's all that
That's
was
about
happening.
getting his needs met.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I wasn't buying that.
And that's kind of the opposite of the way that
Literally
we all
not
sell.
buying that.
Literally.
Around being more of the consultant. Like, help me understand. Show me what's going on in your world, in your business, and let me see if I can help.
Because if the guy had said, is that all the money you have that you can put towards this project?
Yeah.
I'd have said initially, I'd have said yes. And he'd have said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say no.
Yeah.
Right? He wouldn't have pulled the, rebate, and if you do this, and if you do that, and if you jump through 10 damn hoops, if he'd have said, I'm sorry, I can't do that deal, what should we do now?
Absolutely.
How fucking honest would that have been?
No,
I'd have
been
said,
great.
so you mean I need more money?
Yeah, I think no matter what industry you're in or what sales you're in, one of the first questions that you're going to get asked by a customer is, what's it cost?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of answers to that question. That's a very clouded, question to answer. One thing you can't, I could do that. I could say, oh, it costs $2,000 an hour or whatever to do this service. But I don't know that because I don't know what his service is that he needs. I don't know what solution I'm trying to solve. I'm guessing based on somebody said, what's it take for you guys to come over here and do this project? What?
For sure.
If I give an answer, that's features and benefits. If I dig and figure out what it is he's actually trying to do, and I provide a solution that has cost at the end of it, that's digging on pain and providing a solution and value.
And it's also qualifying them to make sure that their expectations line up with your values and how you guys deliver.
I think that's a whole, sure.
Being a detective.
Oh, okay.
Out.
So think about it this way. Building a house, buying a car that is on the expensive end with a lot of features and benefits. What do you really need? Once you know my pain or you understand what my buying instincts are, what do I need to make me feel happy as a buyer, right? That I'm satisfied with this purchase. I'm not afraid to spend the money. Yeah. And when you're talking about in business, most businesses aren't afraid to spend money, or you shouldn't be calling on them.
Yeah,
right? If you're addressing an issue. So when you start looking at why should they even be if they go to cost, then I think your natural reaction should be, well, I haven't clearly understood how I can fulfill your need.
No, I agree. One of the questions that I used to say a lot in the website world is, whenever we talked about budget, and say, hey, just real quick, what I found is that some people want the wish list and they're okay kind of expanding the budget if we can meet everything on the wish list. And then some people, this is all they can afford to spend and we need to make it fit. Curious, where do you see yourself between those two things?
That's where we do it.
Right. And then right then I'm so far past the conversation around, well, we'll talk about cost later, right? Which is dismissive and breaks the trust that you've worked so damn hard to build up to that point in the conversation.
True.
So don't be dismissive, right? Because it's their concerns. Their concerns are valid, just like our concerns as salespeople are valid.
And I go back to don't run your agenda, address their agenda.
Yeah. Well, and if they're bringing that up constantly, cost, what's it cost? That's a pain, guys. That's something that you need to focus towards, to dig at, right? Agreed. So if they talked about quality, then you would
it's
talk
that
about quality.
Because when you say cost, I'm thinking limited budget.
100%.
Limited budget. Right?
I agree with that.
When you say, what are my features? What can I get?
Sure.
Then I'm thinking, all right, they want value for their dollar.
Yeah.
Right. It's the three-legged stool, right? That if you've been in sales or in business for any length of time, right?
Yeah.
Speed, quality, and price.
Yep.
Right.
Pick two.
Agree.
Pick two. Right. You can't have all three. Right. You're not going to get the lowest price with the best quality as fast as you can get it. You can have two of the three, but you're not going to have all three. So which one are you willing to budge on?
It's like being in a back alley in Bangkok.
Been there.
I have no idea.
I knew I was going to hit a nerve with you. Something was going to spark some interest.
And I have no idea what that means.
I think it was called Pattaya Beach, Thailand, not Bangkok, but it's the same difference.
Oh my gosh. All right.
So let's talk about the other side of things, right? Is that you're working for a company, and what and happens, at least for me and some of the bigger companies that I've worked with, because I've done some skipping around in the same industry but for different competitors, right? Or different companies inside the same thing, right? Like I worked for AT&T and I worked for Sprint and I also worked for T-Mobile, right?
Man, you made the gamut.
Quite the
big
resume.
three. I worked for the big three.
At 26 years old, without a college degree and kind of like more or less kind of fresh out of the army and making pretty solid bank as a retail sales rep. Oh man, yeah. Why would I leave?
And you knew shit.
Oh man, if you put me in that role now, I would murder.
Yep.
Right. But here's the deal: I wouldn't go to that role because it's a retail role, and I'm limited to what I can deal with what comes in off the street. I'm not going to put myself in that position ever again.
But you learned a lot from being in that position, right?
When I think about my entire
Say yes.
hold on. Here's the deal.
Mhm.
I left AT&T specifically, right? Because that was the last one in the wireless world for me, thinking that I knew a lot about sales, right? Thinking that I had it all figured out. Because they send you to some training and stuff like this, and here's the deal. It's features and benefits and product training. It's not sales training, right? It's ask open-ended questions and try to corral them into like an easy close.
Do they use the word corral?
Absolutely.
Oh, love it.
The guy who trained me was like he was going to be a baseball umpire and he didn't make the cut. So then he's like, okay, I'll be a sales coach for AT&T.
If you hear the word corral, run.
Well, absolutely. Because that's pressure.
Let me pause you for a second because there's a lot of people out there that have that training, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think the takeaway from this is that what we're talking about, you can compound on exactly what you've been trained to do, right? So you've been trained to do features and benefits. You've been trained to go out there and sell this product knowledge to people.
That's a start.
Yeah, it is a start. What I'm going to say is that, John, you brought up a really good example quite a few episodes ago about working in that environment and somebody buying a red cell phone case, right? They didn't give a shit what the product knowledge was. They just cared if it was red. And if you take your basic product knowledge and couple it with what we're saying here today of ask some pain points, what does it really matter to you? What are you really here for? And if they say buy a red cell phone case, go sell them a red cell phone case.
Absolutely.
Did my daughter shop with you?
What?
Did my daughter?
It wasn't bedazzled. No.
No, it was not.
No, exactly. Because those are the ones I won't buy. But anyway.
So what happens, right, is that these features and benefits are actually usually fed to salespeople from the marketing team, right? And they're like,
not salesmen, but go ahead.
Talk about this, right? This is going to earn you business, when most of these people have never had a sales conversation in their life, right? Because marketing is educating for later
brand
on.
recognition.
Absolutely,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And things like this, right? So
the long game.
I'm working at
not paying your rent.
Yeah, I'm working at T-Mobile. Decided I was going to leave. Played poker for a while, and then decided I was kind of done with poker, and got back into cell phones. And the features and benefits were the same. They're exactly the same. So all these competitive advantages that I thought that T-Mobile like had corner on the market, they were the exact same. So then all of a sudden I'm feeling like a fraud for like all the people that I sold phones to. I'm like, oh man, best network, best coverage.
Because you were.
Oh yeah, no. Because once again, as a C, I hate being wrong, right? And my imposter syndrome runs really, really high pretty much all the time. So stepping into this new world and like, no, we've got the biggest network and we have the best phones and all this stuff. I'm just like, man, I feel like such a liar, which was not comfortable for me whatsoever.
So I was in pharmaceuticals, and y'all keep saying best, and it makes me laugh because our slogan for our top product was the best, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say what it was, but, and, which I would love Clint to talk about that, but we'll get to you in a minute, Clint, please hold your tongue for just a second. But it's so funny because I was successful not because I was selling the best thing, and not to pat myself on the back, but I am, here I go. But it was totally the process, the relationship, the trust that you build. And so that's a great example of, the reason I bring this up is it's a great example of, it wasn't the features and benefits. It was what I was bringing to the table, not the product.
You provided solutions.
Right. And I think that's just so
different.
vital. But Clint, I think we've told this story before. I think I said it last time, but Clint, if you say best to Clint, like that is the best soda or whatever, he's like, I'll never drink that.
I'm only 9% of the population. So yes, I agree with what you're saying. We gotta figure out how to communicate with the 91%, which is, some people want to hear features and benefits, right? People are geared as buyers to pry features and benefits from you. Free consulting. What do you do? How do you do it? They are trained to buy that way. We are trying to break that cycle and say that you have a legitimate problem and I have a solution, and it's going to cost, but how much are you willing to pay, and can I provide that solution at that cost?
So let me throw a curveball here. Your features and benefits are what you need to hold back.
No,
You don't give those up.
For sure. No,
Don't
I
be
agree.
the whore that's just like selling it out there and throwing it out there. You say, hey, look, this is some sweet stuff. Let me know more about how
I would love to dive into the horror analogy because it really makes a lot of sense. I won't, but man, there's a lot of.
That's a great.
It is,
you
man.
see where I'm going with this,
Man,
right?
I think about it.
I mean, because
So to use a different metaphor, I think about it like poker, right? So like poker's a game of information, right? So the later in the hand you get to make your decision, the more information you
have.
right?
Have attained.
So if you don't bet and you don't bet and you don't bet and you're all checking, I can have a pretty shitty hand. And since none of you guys have shown strength, I'm pretty confident that I can bet. Sales is the same thing, right? So whereas if I turn my cards face up immediately upon getting them, you know,
everybody knows.
Everybody
right?
knows what I've got. I can't bluff, right? I'm probably going to get bet off
your
my hand.
hamstring.
Absolutely. So I treat
Good analogy.
I treat sales the same way, right? Like
I like it.
what's your pain? Can I solve it? You know, are you qualified to work with me? Because if you're not,
You brought up a good point, though. Work with me. That's a very different mindset than what most people think, right?
for sure.
So that's nugget one is you get to work,
Quit
to work
begging.
with me.
Quit begging,
Yep.
guys. Quit begging.
I'm a
And that's what-
valued partner to your situation.
And if you don't trust what you sell, fuck, go sell something else.
Yeah, life's too short to be a vendor.
Because
Be a partner.
the process works across the board, right?
I agree. Right,
Well,
and flipping that script is so foreign to most people, right? If you set the expectation right around, hey, I might have to tell you no at the end of the same because I don't work with just everybody who comes crawling along. I've said that to people and they've been furious. What the hell do you mean I might not be a good fit? And I'm like, I'm not saying you are or you're not. I'm just saying that that at the end of this I might have to tell you no.
We have to
Don't come across
qualify
the
you.
desk because then that's a whooping you don't want to take, right? Because I'm a hard mofo.
So-
I'm a salesman, but I'm also a guy who will beat
So, yes.
your ass. Just
So-
telling you
so-
up front.
John, if you're a first year salesman out there and you're hearing this for the first time and you're thinking I'm going to walk into a conference room or a job meeting and say you might not get to work with me, that's really harsh probably to a lot of people's ears. Here's what I will say: what are you going to lose?
No,
and I'll say that because let me tell you, if they don't qualify to be in your process, or they don't, I'm going to say rate because I'm cocky as shit. If they don't rate to be a part of your business, who gives a shit? Who cares, right?
Okay, so there's a couple of really big factors that play into this thing, right? So,
Of course there are.
first of all, in my opinion, if you have never told a prospect, "Hey, we're not the best fit for you," and I apologize, but like we can't, it's just not going to be good if we move forward. If you've never said that to a prospect and you've taken on clients that you know are going to be pains in the ass and like not see value in how you work, if you use a line like that, it's a gimmick and you should stop. Right? Because gimmicks don't really get you anywhere.
You sound like a goddamn salesman.
Yeah, you need to be authentic, right? And so go have conversations with people, and if it doesn't match up, do not propose working together, right? You don't propose to like every person you go out on a first date with.
Be like your bank. You don't qualify.
Exactly, right?
Sorry, too many bad late payments or
But that's not a bad analogy because every bank loan process has a process, right?
Yeah, that's called underwriting.
You meet criteria, and I approve the loan, right?
Absolutely.
Why don't we approve sales? Why don't we approve the process? That's the way it should work in a perfect world.
Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to wear your ass out on that bad client that you're trying to fit a square into a round hole. You're working your ass off because you need the sale. Guys, get your pipeline full of prospects, potential clients, other people you can talk to other than that guy, the guy that's not a good fit.
Yeah. A shallow pipeline 100% impacts your ability to like hold your ground, not discount
Okay,
the things
and
we know
so
is
why do you
important.
have a shallow pipeline? Because you're lazy as fuck. Get off your ass, get hard, get busy.
I love it
Investigate.
because
saying
I
no?
love it because I agree because there's a lot more to what Doc just said than he's letting on. So
No, I agree with that.
So there's a process that you have to follow, and if you're lazy, you're not going to follow the process.
You have a work day, right?
I know. What I'm saying is that, look, what Doc is saying, if what I'm saying
run it.
now is that if you have a process and you're lazy in one element of that process, you're just not going to bring in good prospects, right? You're not going to bring in good jobs that make you successful.
You're going to get to the end of the month or whatever your break point is, and you're going to be scrambling and you're trying to fill something.
Create a habit. Follow the habit.
So what happens in my world a lot is that if I'm not successful, I go fishing.
Yeah.
And I fish and fish and fish and fish until I finally catch a fish, and it may be a shit fish that I can't eat. It might be a grass carp.
But you're hungry.
I don't want to eat it, but I'm hungry, so I got to take it, right? And it
Right.
sucks. However, if I spend all that effort, right, focusing on the one big bass, the yummy fish that I want to catch, am I going to catch it? Probably, if I focus on my effort.
And
So-
it will feed you a lot
Yep.
longer and in a better way.
Yeah, that kind of gets us off topic a little bit, but I want to say that you absolutely have to have a process that people fit into, right? You qualify. John said it a million times. Qualify, qualify, qualify. If you don't qualify, that's okay. Don't start off with features and benefits and tell them all these great things about my brand new car that I'm about to sell you. Look, they may not want that shit. They just
Absolutely.
may not want it. They may just need a car to get to work, and it doesn't matter what it looks like.
So I'm going to back up a little bit because I think Al dropped a huge bomb, right? And like a severe nugget. And this is more for the owner who's still selling, right? And you're hearing the person, you can smell the crazy on him, you hear him, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna charge him extra. It's never worth it.
Yeah.
The
Agreed.
pain in the ass tax is not worth it. Cut bait, and if you're recreating your business to fit the one client, you're doing it wrong. Cut bait, go work with someone else. Real quick,
Because they're out there.
hold on.
Yeah.
Paul
Millions
had a question about this. Can we get to Paul's question, because I can't.
Paul's our producer behind the scenes, by the way.
Paul's our producer. He's an entrepreneur. He's also a sales guy. So
He's also a fantastic singer.
yeah, I want to hear his question.
Okay, they probably won't be able to hear me as
Sure.
well as you repeat it. So, along what you said with the pipeline, build your pipeline. So, what about, you've got all this people that you're talking to, prospecting like that. What if your prospect is literally like in the phone sales business? People didn't come, it wasn't a year-long sale.
Yeah.
So, what do you do when you have 10 minutes to sell? What do you attack on? What do you hit on? What do you
So he
do?
said, when you have 10 minutes to sell, what do you?
Good question, right? So
For the people that aren't in these huge
Huge.
corporations selling
Absolutely,
for businesses
right.
like yourselves, you guys are selling because you want that.
Okay.
So if we're hearing you correctly, what you're asking is like, how do you manage that in a very short-term transactional selling cycle? Okay.
Get direct.
I think, to go back to the phone analogy, I don't have to qualify very much, right? Versus in a very customized consulting sale, I got to make sure that you want to work the way that I want to work, because there's so much room for us to be at odds, right? And I think in Clint's world, in construction, that's also a huge thing. And I think that for Nanette and Al, like, the process is kind of more or less the same, right? Like I don't think it flexes very much from
Okay.
company to company.
But let's go back to phone sales for a second, because to me, it's a really good analogy. A guy walks in the door, and instantly you puke all of this stuff about the new iPhone fucking 12s, right? You puke all this knowledge, and the guy's like, okay, sounds good, but I don't know, how much does it cost?
Mhm.
You lost the guy, right? But if you'd have asked a question like, hey man, you came in here today, what are you looking to do? Hey man, I'm looking to buy a new phone.
Sure.
Okay, what are you looking for? Because I've got a lot of different phones here, right? They all cost different things. Are you looking for a new camera that can take pictures of the moon at night?
Mhm.
Because and you want them clear? Can I put that on my computer? Do you want them to just make phone calls? Just only phone calls?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you want them to be able to text, do all this stuff? What do you need it to do? And he delivers his demands. Let's say demands, right?
What are the top
Yeah.
3 things he wants?
Okay. Well, look, man, I've got 3 phones that can do that. I've got 3. This one is, A, B, and C option. A is obviously most expensive, and it provides everything. B is this, C is that. The reason I say that is because what you've done is discovered exactly what he's looking to buy.
Of course.
Right.
No,
Or-
absolutely.
Or you can say, what
Can
has
I
brought
stop
you in?
everybody? Can I stop everybody? That's romper room. They're coming to you. They're walking through the freaking door.
Oh, I get
right?
that. No,
but
I get
let's
that.
go the flip side,
But
where
you-
you got to walk through their door.
Okay.
You have
I
to
agree.
engage
Yeah.
No,
them.
yeah.
That's,
Okay.
in my opinion, a little harder
Sure.
equation.
But
I may be wrong.
aren't you? But at the same time, aren't you in the room because you're there for a reason?
No, you
Right.
made your way in.
Maybe you got invited, maybe you stopped by or whatever. But they need a service from you. That's why you're there.
Don't disagree. It's similar, but
Okay.
it's a different process
Yeah.
because the guy,
it absolutely is a different
the bait
process,
comes
right?
to you
Sure.
versus you're on
Totally.
the hook, right?
Yeah, very
For
much so. So now, but the point of it is that once you're in that room, no matter whether they came to you or you went to them, the process now is you have to uncover pain. You have to uncover what they're truly wanting to buy.
All right, so let's
That's
back
the
up
same process.
because we kind of ran over Nan a minute ago. What were you
I
gonna
was
say?
just saying, instead of giving him options, say, now what brought you in? I think I've heard that a million times when I've
Oh,
gone
yeah.
into those stores.
That's what we were taught
Right.
to say.
So yeah,
okay, but it's not wrong, guys.
No, I'm not saying it.
No, we're not saying it's
okay,
wrong. We're
okay,
trying
hold
to
on.
identify what the best
If
process
loving
is.
you is wrong, I
Let-
don't want to be right.
Let's back up, right? Because there is a gap and a difference between like the things that we sell, right, in the B2B realm, and something even like AT&T in the B2B realm, right? Because there were some people that are outside sales reps for AT&T. And
Absolutely.
they work
I'm
with
not. I
companies and
wasn't
fleets and everything else.
poo-pooing any of that. I was just saying the harder equation, in my opinion,
Mhm.
is when you have to go to the customer versus the customer coming to you.
Absolutely.
If you got great brand recognition, you need this too. I'm not
Sure.
saying you don't. I'm saying they walk through the door. Now it's you know you have a qualified customer. Somebody that's at least looking.
You want to talk about the hard thing, right? To use the
Tell me about
the
the
phone
hard thing.
sales
I'd love to hear
analogy.
about that.
The phone sales analogy
Why'd you
is
laugh?
the
Because
we
you
got
don't
paid.
know.
We got paid on data packages whenever I was there, right? So like you could have the iPhone or the BlackBerry, or like
Huge BlackBerry
That's a-
fan,
that's a
man. I
whole
want to
different
cry
guy,
when you
right?
say that word.
so. If
For the
you
OR.
if you had an
Badass phone, though.
iPhone, right, in call it like the iPhone 4, right, because
Let's call it the
they've been
BlackBerry,
around
if
for
you
a
will.
while, and then you wanted to come in, I was supposed to talk you out of the iPhone, because if you stayed with the iPhone and that data plan that came with the iPhone versus the BlackBerry data plan, I didn't get paid on that. So then I am trying to absolutely steer you in the wrong direction because my commission structure only rewards me if I make you change certain amounts of features, right?
But
And
that
then
ain't-
that's
wrong.
when you
Thank
get
goodness
into
for Amazon.
that's when you start to deal with like people that are just there to like make a buck because they're only incentivized because companies will dangle spiffs and incentivizations and then take it away, and that's not super
But a
helpful
lot of
either.
companies do that. I mean, across the board.
Sure.
You know, with big sales force. So if you're stuck in I don't say stuck. If you are in the genre of mass sales, commodity type scenarios with add-ons and built-ins, let's address that. I mean, so when you look at your prospect, I mean, somebody who comes through the door you go to, what's that look like?
I mean, you brought up a really interesting part about it being a commodity sale, right? Because some people it is a commodity. We have a friend who sells boxes, and so you know what?
Well, we
comes
live
down
in
to
a
price.
first world country. Most things are commodities. Tell me that you can't buy a car or you can't buy anything that doesn't have a competitor or 10 competitors or 20 competitors. Name one. Oh,
can't.
silence.
I
win.
mean,
You can't.
I can't. But there's a difference.
Diamonds. You
Hold
know,
on, though, right?
Everything.
But there's the difference between selling boxes. We all know a guy who sells boxes,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And if you are, Amazon, you're buying your boxes, it's going to come down to price, right?
Yeah.
So what you are trying to just uncover is like, what is your motivation? What's the biggest thing?
Yeah.
How do we continue the conversation?
Because honestly, with boxes, like you might just need a paper sack. But I'm
True.
serious, right?
Carried
But
my
how-
lunch
but
all
how-
my years
but-
in high
But how do you know? How do you know what they need, right?
But I agree, and where I go with that is, so it's not always product, right? So when you say boxes, you're also talking about delivery.
Oh, for
Do
sure.
they break?
Absolutely.
Does the shit
Le-
fall out of the
Does it
bottom
look
of
good?
it?
Yeah.
Labeling?
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it what you want? So there's always a nuance of, is what you're doing
Mhm.
where you want to be?
And that's the difference between, in my opinion, being solutions driven and just being like features and benefits driven,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Because if I can get you the better box that fits your needs, right? If you've been buying crappy boxes and the bottom keeps falling out of them and you're tired of that, you might be willing to pay for it because you're going to turn them over less, and then you still end up saving money. That's driving awareness and finding a solution to a
But
problem.
how do you do
or a
that?
pain.
Or the
But how do you do that?
Yes, questions.
What kind of questions?
I mean, I feel like you're looking
Specific
for a very
questions.
specific answer
Yeah.
here.
No,
so.
I don't
Okay.
think it is.
No, so I mean,
There's a question behind every issue, right?
Oh,
Or there's
absolutely.
an introduction to, hey, probably going okay, but could I ask you a question? How are boxes working out for you today?
Sure, and we're gonna have a whole episode talking about questioning strategies and like the best way to do this. But really, it's questions and not being attached to the outcome. Because here's the deal: if you see value in a certain thing that I can't deliver on, I'm not going to beat my head against the wall trying to make you see value in it.
That's a good point.
Or better yet, if you say that everything's great, it doesn't necessarily mean everything's great in your world, right?
Absolutely.
So another thing that it happens a lot in my industry that you can't get attached to is when somebody does deliver you a pain because you've asked the discovery questions. Let's just say, hey, the bottom of the box falls out constantly in these boxes. What's your solution to not having this? And
duct tape.
But listen, maybe you don't have a solution, right?
I don't know.
That's okay. You don't have a solution. Get the fuck out, right?
And there's
be
always
honest.
a solution.
For sure.
Like,
absolutely.
Right?
Your principle has got to be that you're going to deliver and be truthfully and honest.
On this theme of features and benefits versus pain, right? Because that's what we're talking about. One thing you can't do is hear a customer's pain, not have a solution, and then provide features and benefits that you don't have.
Yeah.
A lot of people do this.
Oh, absolutely.
So then you're stuck you are literally in a hole with a shovel, and that's your only way out.
Hold on real quick. Paul had that question. We kind of answered it, and then we just took off like running down a tangent. Paul, did we answer your question?
Yes. For
Okay. All right. Paul says yes, so we're good. But I wanted to make sure that you got a good answer out of that.
I can't even remember his question, but anyway,
it wasn't important. That's why he's not up here.
But he is. No, stop. Oh, look at
Team P. Hashtag Team P.
Look at what the talent just spit out. Oh, we may not be here next week, guys.
Technical difficulties. It's just a blank screen. So back to features and benefits versus pain, right? Because I'm a firm believer that if your principle is not, I want you to have the best experience possible, even if that means that it's not me, that is going to lead you down the path of, I just need to get my needs met by selling you something, even if you don't really need it.
Where in this process, John, I'm asking you personally, because you have a process.
I do.
Where in this process do you start out asking these questions, this discovery for pain? Where do you do that? Do you do that up front? Do you do that once you've done bonding and rapport? Or what do you do?
Yeah, so a couple episodes ago, we talked about setting expectations, and I talked about why I personally feel like it's such an important thing. And one of the biggest things is I'm going to ask you some hard questions, right? I'm a consultant, right? So
you say that to them?
What, that I'm gonna ask you hard questions?
Yeah.
I don't say it that blatantly,
because I do.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm going to talk about the types of questions I'm going to ask. Hey, I'm going to have questions for you about like what you tried in the past. Did that work? What your timeline is. You know, we got to talk about budget. You know, if we can't have those kinds of conversations, we're never going to be able to work together.
So
is that going to be okay?
What John just said is really important, because you're setting expectations on some really hard questions that they're probably maybe have never heard.
Yeah.
In a sales conversation, right?
Okay, but I want to caution people. John showed it in a nutshell, and maybe most people got that.
Sure.
This is a process of getting to know your client, discussing. So we're breaking to when you are at that point to discuss the process of, do you really have something I need to fix?
Oh yeah, one of my favorite things to say to people is that if they're super clammed up, excuse me, or if I get the feeling that their walls are up, is I'll say a line of like, hey, can we just make an agreement just real quick that if we can't figure out what the ROI is of us working together, that we'll just call this thing over?
I love it.
Right? Because then that puts all the pressure on me as a salesperson and lets them feel at ease, right? Which builds the trust and builds the rapport. And then we can just focus on the conversation. Because then when I say, you know, what happens if you don't make a change? You now know that I'm trying to figure out the art, because here's the deal. When you hire a consultant, right, no matter who it is, marketing consultant, coaching consultant, CRM consultant, they're going to find something to fix. Like, that's what they're there to do.
Sure.
But I'm trying to make you feel at ease around, hey, if we can't agree on this thing to where you know what you're getting and there's a positive ROI, tell me to leave.
Yeah. The other side of you being in the CRM business, we touched on it a couple episodes ago. Most people that you're dealing with may not even know that they have a pain that you can solve, right?
Absolutely.
Because I would guess that in my business, most people are calling me to say, hey, I have a job that I need you to fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your best price. That's a lot different than they're not calling you. You're calling them. It's very different, right? So you're calling them, and if you puked, and I call it puke because it very much is, if you puked all the features and benefits of what you can do, it probably falls on deaf ears more times than not. However, if you ask questions to say, hey man, how are you tracking your data, right? Your sales data. What are you doing every year?
And even that, in my opinion, is a little too features and benefits-y, right?
But
data? I don't want data around my sales. I sell everyone I sit across from.
But listen, you're setting a avenue to go down. You're setting the information highway that you're trying to get on to go down.
But John just hit on, so when we speak to physicians, have you ever had a negative outcome? Oh, never, right?
Absolutely,
their egos
right?
won't let them go there.
Because here's the deal. It is super uncomfortable to admit to a salesperson that you have a potential pain or gap in your business.
Okay. But at the same time, you have to discover some pain.
No,
and you
for
have
sure.
to ask some questions.
So here, in our business, the way it sort of runs is, so when this happens,
Mhm.
right, or when something breaks, or this doesn't work out, what's your out?
Yeah. Okay. So in John's world, if you don't hit your sales goal for the year, how do you know what happened?
So,
absolutely.
So let me tell you, right? I started this business in September, and the first, I don't know, dozen or so clients was just me reaching out to people that I knew from networking for the website business and saying, hey, I'm working on a new thing. Can I tell you about it? I don't think you need this, but you might know someone who does. And really, I would just love your insight because you've been in business longer than I have. Everyone is willing to take that meeting. So then I meet with them and I say, hey, here are the things that I'm trying to do, and here are the concerns from the people that I've heard so far, right? We've got huge gaps between salespeople. It takes a long time to ramp people up. There's no way to forecast the future of the business based upon their sales pipeline and stuff like that. Inevitably, these first 12 people are like, I have those problems, right? So just by talking about it as, hey, I'm looking for this in a way of not trying to push my product on you. Here's my pamphlet. Take a look at it. Do you want to talk about it? Just talking about these are the people that I'm looking for. They can then say, I have those problems. Oh, I wasn't sure.
Let me give some insight. If you're a smart business owner, if you're a smart CEO, VP of sales, a decision maker, if you're a decision maker that can buy something in a company, you talk to a lot of people. You want to make sure your decisions are right. That's the only way you stay either
Absolutely.
profitable in business, you work with the right people. So from a sales standpoint, understand that. They aren't just one and done. They talk to friends. They have networks that probably far exceed your network.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
They're up the scale from you usually.
Yeah.
Right? And so in a certain sense, when you bring that consulting attitude, not the sales attitude, but does this make sense and then if it doesn't make sense to you, don't force it.
Absolutely.
Right? They'll see it coming, guys. They really will.
I think that was brilliant what you said, John. Instead of features and benefit, you were identifying pains, and it kind of put a light bulb in their head.
So I see this all the time when I'm out networking, right? I'm at the networking event, I'm talking to people, I'm like, what are you doing? They give me their 30-second pitch. Oh, we're the best around. We've been around since 1891. Well, if I see value in that, aren't I going to see a little bit more value in someone who's been around since 1875? Right? So now, I planted the seed of this guy could be good.
Before electricity or after electricity?
But I'm just saying that when you're talking about features and benefits, it's oh, these guys do that thing. Maybe someone else does that thing as well.
You bring up a really interesting point because on the desk behind me in my office, I have stacks and stacks of vendors' business cards, right? And then I have a few out to the side that provide value. I know these guys. I trust these guys. These guys are the best. I only call these guys and I only recommend these guys. Mm-hmm. This stack is features and benefits guys that I met at a networking event, a conference, or wherever, and they said, I'm the best, man. When you need this,
where's John's card on your desk? That's what I want to know.
It's in the stack.
Which one?
The shit
to the
stack.
right.
He was vague on purpose, Al.
But the point of it is that even in your own networking and your prospect building, that you got to be careful about spewing features and benefits versus pains, right? Mm-hmm. So you can even even as networking events and doing prospect, you can say things like, most people have this pain, and Doc's out. He quit.
He's taking a break.
No, he'll be back. So one of the things is with him is that I cannot spew features and benefits, because that's what they'll spew, right, to their referrals. So I have a stack of business cards, and where I'm going with this is that sometimes people will tell me all this stuff, and then when I'm asked, do you know anybody that does, let's just say, concrete finished floors, really smooth floors? Well, I know one guy that's awesome at it, and I have a stack of business cards of people that say they can do it, right? It's very different than discovering pain.
For sure.
So even in your networking, even when you're out there pitching yourself, just to maybe even not even clients, be careful about spewing features and benefits and saying you're the best and saying you're the best company and we do this and we do that. Explain some pains that you've solved.
Well, that, and then it's a lot of pressure to carry, right? We're the cheapest. Oh man. Now you forever have got to be the cheapest, or we're the best, or we're the fastest for delivery, or whatever that that thing is.
And what happens when you
Yeah.
don't deliver on that?
Absolutely right. Then you're done.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest downfalls of features and benefits in my book is what happens when you don't deliver on that.
Well, that's what I thought about.
Now you're dead
when
to
you,
me.
When you were talking about the concrete guy, and you have the one guy. What if he fails? Then they're not going to return to you, would
I
they?
would much rather a guy say to me, "Look, you have a problem. Look, I have a solution to your problem. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. It's going to cost some money. What is that money that you're willing to spend with me? Hey, look, I think that fits in budget, but just know, right? Just know that this may not all go perfectly. And if it doesn't, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Can we disagree to talk about it?
That's a partnership, right?
Absolutely.
Versus somebody said, we do it every day. We got this. I got it. Don't worry about it. It cost $1 million. We got it. And you're just like, okay, well, they got it. And what happens when it doesn't? Right?
Well, you shift from conversation to solution.
That's right.
And that's way more important.
So not only just being a salesperson and pitching features and benefits versus asking for pain, but also be careful about the outcome of features and benefits versus pain. Because if you truly did pains correctly and you truly got the information that you needed and you solved their solution, but you set expectations to say, man, look, in my business, it doesn't always go smooth. We're going to have some ups and downs, and I'm going to work through you with a partner. And when that situation arises, like John said, can we just have a conversation about how to move forward versus saying, I've got this. I'm going to do it for you. I'm the best in the business. Yeah, because when it doesn't happen that way, you're screwed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and so then what happens, right, is we're using cloudy language back to prospects because they like cloudy language.
But they love it.
Oh, yeah, right. And they don't even understand how non-committal they're being, right? So they say things like, I want more business, I want more leads, I need a bigger building. What does bigger mean?
But guys, not only do they love it, they've been trained to get it.
Absolutely, right? Because everyone else, and you said something earlier that I think is really important to talk about, bringing value, right? Which, looked at in the wrong way, is a lot of free work.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
You show up and you do the free audit, because this is going to highlight all the potential gaps in their business and things like that. So you got to be careful about where does the value added line end and the free work line begin.
Yeah. Well, Doc's back, everybody. Just in case you
missed me.
If you
absolutely
old man bladder.
Too many drinks.
Forgive me.
Exactly.
But you do have to be careful with that features and benefits versus value added line, right?
For sure.
But also at the same time, when people ask you, what do you do and how do you do it? Sometimes there's an answer there that's not features. It may come off features and benefits, but you do have to answer the question to move forward, right? So don't always think you have to answer every question with a question. Don't be coy about it. Don't be stupid about it. Yeah. If somebody asks you what you do, don't say, well, I don't know what you need me to do.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That's a silly way to do it.
Condescending.
How much does it cost? Well, what do you want?
Well, what do you want?
Yeah.
So be careful about that, right? There is a line that you have to cross because you do have to provide some information. They're entitled to some information, right? Well, why are you even there if you're not going to provide information about you? That's not features and benefits. That's answering a question and then discovering after. But you have to discover afterwards.
Absolutely.
Or before, because you can say, so important question.
Why did you call me to the table?
Yeah. Why did you ask? Why
Yeah.
do you ask?
It
right?
sounds like that's really important to you.
Yep.
I'd love to find out
Let's
why.
let's talk something about
Get
that.
clarification.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and-
Especially, and this is me, the C talking, right? If you know the questions that normally come up in a sales conversation, and then you get a question that's out of left field, where the hell does that thing come from?
Yeah.
I'm curious enough that I really want to know that.
But
How did we even get here? And I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
So, and Dan heard me say this, when you look at somebody and go, whoa, you just kicked me in the nuts, why do you ask that? I mean, when you can honestly just say that, then you've got a good rapport going.
Yeah.
Go ahead and just let it fly. Hey, when you say left field, you're like, whoa, man, bitch slap me. Tell me more about that, please.
I will say this over and over again. For me as a high D, if you're out there listening and you resonate with me, you have to build all of this in bonding and rapport. You have to set expectations that you're going to be that way, right? So
Yeah.
one thing you can't do is be friendly. Hey, I'm your guy. I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden get in a conference room and say, oh, by the way, now I have to ask you all these tough questions. That's really
Yeah,
tough
you
on the
already know
ears,
that.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
So
Starting
if
out
you
first.
do your bonding and rapport right, and you build a trust relationship and a valued relationship, these questions are easy.
Well, so just real quick, and then Nan said something, but it was under you. But I want to make sure we talk about it. Like, you buy from who you trust, right? If a guy shows up and he's got a Lamborghini and he's like, "Man, $100 you can have this thing," I don't trust that situation. Like what is going on? So the bonding and rapport leads to trust, and then setting expectations continues that trust. So that way, when I'm going to ask you really hard questions you might not even have answers to,
Yeah.
and you definitely don't want to share with a salesperson, we can at least have a conversation about it.
Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about here is as we go through these episodes, we're talking about a topic, but don't take us out of context, right? You really got to have some backup. You got to build some other things that we've maybe talked about in previous episodes, and
Absolutely, yeah.
to get to this point.
This isn't one and done.
Yeah.
And when you brought up the point of when you have to ask a question, sometimes you need to ask. There's a process where we referenced this in another episode where you sat with a really energetic individual and then the owner's son, and then sometimes you have the insight of being able to say, is it going to be okay for me to ask this question?
Yeah.
I really need to know this to make, and that's just showing your genuine nature to say,
Absolutely.
this
But it's also setting great expectations.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing better than showing vulnerability to get information.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah, that's a, like, I could spend a whole episode on just like
You can.
transactional analysis,
Because
and I'm okay.
there's
You're
no
okay, and
other
all that stuff.
reason
It's so
to
important.
show vulnerability
Yeah, I love that.
other than to further the cause of understanding and getting a relationship built, right?
I would guess that I'm probably more direct than most people up here on this fact that I set mutual contracts before I ask a question. Look, man, I'm about to ask you some tough shit. Look, we're friends, right? We're buddies. You trust me, I trust you. These conversations suck because they're not comfortable, right? We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about these things that they're failures, right? Because how do you discover pain if there's no failure? Usually pain is very linked to failure.
Absolutely.
So most people don't like to talk about their failures. But when you start asking about pain, you're talking about their failures.
Especially in my world.
And that's really tough, right? So without all of that bonding and rapport and trust and setting mutual contracts before you go into that meeting that says, hey, man, for us to move forward, if you really truly value me and I truly value you, we have to get through some of this preliminary stuff, which is me asking you questions about stuff that's happened in the past, right? If they agree to what you just asked and they say, yeah, hey, man, I know it's uncomfortable. Let's talk about it because I need to get through that.
You cannot do anything you need.
Let them
Doc
talk
squinting his
about their
eyes.
feelings.
Doc squinting his eyes. But, my point is that if you set those expectations up front and those contracts between the two of you, those questions that you're probably deep down nervous to ask or just afraid, they come a lot easier.
Nan's
but that
been
still feels a little forced. And I understand you push it.
Well, I'm a
probably
different
little,
personality
I know,
too,
exactly.
right?
I think
Absolutely
you
right.
lean in a little
Yeah,
more
sure.
than I do.
I do,
Because
yeah.
I want them to come to me with, this guy's really a genuine guy. And he's asking me some questions that I feel like I'm safe answering, right?
For sure.
I don't feel threatened by this. I think this is a decent conversation. So I'm looking at their agenda of, whereas maybe they're afraid not to answer yours, because at a certain point I'm like,
but
oh,
at the
shit.
but at the same time, that's my workaround in my own personality.
I get
so
it.
so if you're a high D, we're direct people, right? And the way that I get around being offensively upfront and direct is by saying, like, man, I just have a process. I'm very I say this stuff just so you guys know. I'm not speaking from the hip here. I actually say this to my customers, agree with it or not. Hey, look, man, I'm a very direct guy. I ask a lot of questions and people get offended sometimes. I apologize for that. That's me. I am going to ask you some questions to qualify you in my process. And one of those things is I have to talk about budget and I have to talk about some of your failures. It's going to be uncomfortable as shit. I don't want to do that. But unfortunately, to get through my process and to help me help you and to provide value to your customer, I think that we have to go through that process. And if you're okay with that, I'd like to move forward. If they say no, fuck it, get the fuck out. Yeah. Move on. Go find another customer that will, because that's value and that's partnership.
So Nan's been very quiet on this episode. And
I just don't think in the medical field there's pain, but it's not at the level that y'all experience. So it's a little different.
The thing that I think is interesting, right, is you have to get a doctor who, you're the smartest kid in high school, right? You don't party in college. You don't have much of a social life because you want to get into med school. You get into med school, which is a brutal ass beating. And then you're a resident, which is like no life. And then finally you're a doctor and you make more money than the average person does. And you got a lot of power. Why would you be a normal functioning human? Right. Sorry. Just going to be honest. So
some of them are, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, some of them are nice and social and everything else like this, but
most of them. Yeah.
Nan, you have to get these people who are, like, they view themselves as the top of the food chain, right? I give you back your life, right, on the table.
Sometimes,
right?
Yeah,
so how do you talk about pain? How do you get people to admit that things could be better?
Okay, because they pull their pants up just the same way
agree.
everybody else
No,
does.
absolutely.
And they have businesses, they have
So that's
revenue
why
streams,
I
they
always
have everything that a business
levitate to the bonding rapport. I know I say it all the time, but that is I will never back down from, as much as y'all fight me on it. That's the most important thing, 100% to me. Yesterday, I had a meeting with this group, and they were like, oh, yeah, we don't really, that's not something we're really interested in. And so I continued. I was not doing features and benefits. I was asking them, okay, so in your practice, how do you do this? How do you do that? And then one of the doctors said, oh, well, we just bought one of those machines. And I said, oh, all right, cool. So the whole time I'm interacting with everyone in the room and asking questions. By the end of it, the doctor was like, I know we just bought that, but that makes sense. So it was in conversation. My point being, you have to have conversation. You have to talk and build in that building, in the bonding and rapport. You are still talking about what they need.
You've described lubrication. You've lubed them up. You've made it easier to slide in.
But I'm telling you, it's you are like so into that. But no, anyway,
I'm being serious. So
no, I know
because what you
but
said.
It's true. It's so true.
But I agree with that. So naturally, to your personality, that comes because you actually care, right? You actually care about warming them up, and you actually care about solving their solutions. From a person standpoint, a soul standpoint, I don't have that.
I'm more solving their issues, not their solutions.
But the point of it is we may look at it differently, but we both agree. We both said it in this episode that bonding and rapport is very crucial in setting up the next step in our process, which is discovering pain and how we can solve that and add value. But you can't just jump into that.
You cannot.
You can. Yeah, you can. It might
offensive.
work. You can. It might work. It's probably a 1% chance that you're going to move forward. However, you can flip that script and you can warm them up and set expectations and mutual contracts, right? and you can do all those things. I agree with you there. As an S to a D, we don't do that very often, but I agree with you by setting that and actually caring that you can move forward into this pain funnel and really move down the spectrum. So I think we're running out of time here.
Hold on again. Pick it up again, but don't say pain funnel because we can't say pain funnel. Right? You're running through trying to uncover pain is what you're trying to say. And Paul, we need to cut that part out because we can't say pain funnel.
Yeah, so I think that the spectrum of pain is something that you really have to dig into hard, and by understanding, bonding and rapport and kind of warming them up, you're gonna be able to work down that.
So, Al has a point, but before we get too far, I think that the thing to really take away here is that Nan could have continued to beat her head against the wall, right? Of saying, no, mine's the best, mine's the best, mine's the best. But what she did was, they talk about in the military, a flanking, right? It's used in pretty much every martial art on the planet, right? You're not supposed to fight force against opposing force bluntly, right? Because the stronger person's going to win. And the stronger person is your prospect, like pretty much 100% of the time.
Yeah, they hold the cards.
Exactly. So what she did was she flanked, right? She moved off to the side. She picked a better angle and approached it from the side thing. How do you guys handle this,
Can I say about that
Sure.
It's so important I went in to that group and I did not have to win. I wanted to win, but I wasn't standing there going, oh my gosh, no matter what. I was like, listen, I have a really, I didn't say this, but in my head I'm thinking, I can bring something to the table for y'all that's going to be great. And I'm going to explain how that's going to happen. But I was also, so I'm thinking it's really vital that this is not your life and death. Like, you've got to do that. You've got to win, because I think that sets you up for failure when you've got to win.
It's a good point.
But 100%, you did not say that first. You discovered pain and then relinquished that information. That is the biggest kicker here, right? So most people, especially probably S's and I's, and really so much D's, are. I'll get into this on our throwdown segment here in a second.
Al had a point a moment ago. Can we touch on that, and then we'll get on throwdown?
Yeah, I mean, we vacillated between bonding and rapport and how to get to pain. You tell your friends and people that you trust the things that are the most intimate to you, right? I mean, you don't tell a stranger, somebody you don't know, hey, this isn't going well. Well, but what I'm saying is, from a sales standpoint, understand the psychology of human nature. Why did people tell people the most important things that they're having a conflict over? Because they trust them and they like them. So from a sales standpoint, when you come in with bonding and rapport, it is to establish that you can, Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect, tell me some of these things, and we can work on them together.
Yeah.
Right? So take that to heart in your process. And
I have a question for you, Al. Yeah. Being someone who's very, very people driven, right? Do you struggle if you don't build enough of that trust, and then someone is kind of like shutting down on you? Is that hard for you to deal with as an I?
Well, I know I didn't do enough bonding and rapport to get to.
Do you back up and correct that?
Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes I just know it's going horrifically bad, or I'm about to run over a cliff, because we have a time constraint, right? Backing up, sometimes you don't have the time. You didn't do your job right the first time.
So for me, I recognize that I did that. I do that a lot, right? I didn't warm them up enough. I didn't do enough bonding and rapport to get to the point where I'm at, and now I'm failing, and I see that right in front of my eyes. There's a couple different ways you can do that. You can back up and try to work through that. That's one way. Yeah. Me personally, as a high D, I cut bait and run, and I don't do it again.
Is that because you don't like looking?
Well, I don't want to talk about failures. I don't fail. I only win. I mean, but that's insight, right? So I feel that I only win. So cutting bait and running
allows you to still win.
Is a tactical retreat. It's not a failure.
Interesting.
Right.
All right.
There you go.
We're time for the throwdown.
Ready
All right,
to go.
Clint, speaking to the D's around, pain versus features and benefits.
All right. So as a high D, if you're out there listening, in my world, your ego is going to get in the way of this really hard, because you're ego driven and gut driven, and you want to be the best in the room. Your natural inclination is to spew spew and puke features and benefits because you think you're the best, right? And on paper, you may be, right? You hand out that brochure, you say, hey, look, I got the best brochure. I'm the slickest guy in town. I can solve all your problems. Just call me. That's your ego. Check that shit. Check it at the door. Find out what you really, truly have in your tank, what you can truly provide to that customer. Find all those things that you match up on. I have this in my arsenal. They need my arsenal. Go after that shit. And only after that shit.
Awesome. Al, as our eye?
As an eye, you're generally well liked. Use that to your advantage. As you begin your conversation, work the angle or work your personality into a trusted position. And you can do that very quickly. I mean, if you're a really, really good eye, they're going to feel your empathy. They're going to understand that as they begin to unfold what their sales process is or what their buying process is, that it revolves around, I need to find a solution. That trust will go a long way. Ask the right questions once you're there. Don't blow it. Get to the crux. Go for the win and understand their issues and then fulfill their needs.
Interesting. Nan, with an S?
So have you ever gone to buy a car? How do you want to be treated? How do you, the easiest thing, I'm just going to, just for time, treat people the way you want to be treated. Sell to people the way you want to be sold to. It's ridiculous. Like, don't treat people. Don't try to scam them. Don't try to, just help them. Just like you want to be treated. I know it's so but I really think that is so important.
It's a, all right, sorry, we're not debating at this point. Yeah. Sorry. So as a C, understand that the things that you see value in, they might not, and that's totally okay. It's incredibly short-sighted to think that someone is dumb or an idiot because they don't see value in the things you see value in. And as a takeaway, go talk to the people that you kill it for. Be like, hey, why'd you pick me? What did we do that made you want to move with us versus someone else? Why do you stay? Go take that information and then turn it into a process. And so that way you can ask questions around those kinds of things, right? If they say, well, you're the best, what makes us the best, right?
You're a good kisser.
Dig into that. And then on the other thing is that don't take the stuff that you're being told too literally. It's very easy as a C to take things, I'm known as Captain Literal in many, many circles. So don't take that because everybody wants more business. Everybody on the planet, Nike wants more business, right? But what happens if you don't get it? Right? That's pain. And if you can get to that part of pain, they're not going to lowball you, right? They're on this journey with you as this person that they trust. So that's today's episode. Captain Literal. It's a thing for sure.
Too bad it wasn't Captain Obvious.
If you're listening to this, guys, and you want to follow us on social media, everything is at Sales Throwdown, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you have questions from the field, send them to us. We'd love to kind of unpack them and talk about how each one of us deals with it. If you're watching us on YouTube, I hope you're enjoying the show. Sorry you had to witness Al kind of get up and walk out of the room
man,
for a little
old man
bit.
bladder.
God,
Hey,
take this, man.
I want to say thank you to everybody that's listened to us this far through the whole episodes that we put out there. We do appreciate you guys. You guys are the reason we're here.
Yeah.
We have a little ego wrapped into this, but it is really genuine when we say thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Come back and see us next time.
Yeah. Leave an honest review, right? If you think it's good, awesome. If you think we can improve, let us know. And
Please let us know.
If you know someone who's struggling, share this with them.
Yeah. Hashtag your team.
Absolutely.
Team D.
Thanks, y'all.
Aye.
Thanks. Have a good night.